crowd here. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers. Writers like you and me who use and who write on, well, Macs and iPhones, but especially today, iPads. This is the second week of Scrivener Month on 58 Keys. So, last week's edition, linked in the description below. Of course, you know how that works. It was about why writers and authors like using Scrivener and also why they don't. This time, it's all about where you can use Scrivener. So, yeah, actually, most definitely the iPad, but also the iPhone and actually any second device. So last week and next, it was about me writing in Scrivener in the Mac Studio in my office, but away from it, you or I could be writing in Scrivener on a MacBook Neo, a MacBook Pro, Mac Air, any of those, or even apparently a Windows PC. I do actually want to concentrate on the iPad because that one is special, and you could well write in Scrivener solely on your iPad, having no other devices, not buying the Mac version at all. But for all of them, whenever you're using Scrivener on any two devices or more, I suppose, there are a couple of issues. I mean, it's nothing startling, but it's important to know about. So, in a moment, let's just race through all of that stuff, get those things out of the way, and then spend some quality time on Scrivener for iPad. Lovely iPad. But do please note, like I said, this is week 2. And after next week's part 3, which is a deeper dive into those extra nice features of Scrivener, such as script writing, there's then part 4, parts 2, 3, followed by 4. Look at the quality of information you get here. Part 4 is going out live. It goes out live on YouTube at 7 p.m. UK time on Wednesday, March 25, 2026. I'll be recording afterwards, of course. But it's going to be about answering your Scrivener questions. So please start asking them now in the comments to this video and the others so that I can research the answers and, really good on the night. Okay. 58 Keys Patreon members, by the way, have already started asking questions, but you know what that lot are like. God. Scrivener on iPad and more than one device, 2 devices. Yeah, here we go. Okay, all it is that if you have Scrivener on an iPad, something else, on any 2 devices, you have to close the document on one before you open it on the other. I mean, close the Scrivener document, the book you're writing. If you have multiple books, different apps, that's different, but the document has to be closed when you are done. I think that could sound obvious, unless, though, you're used to writing in something like Apple's Pages or Ulysses, IA Write, really just about anything on a Mac or an iPad now, because those are all very good at saving your work constantly and then automatically syncing the latest version between however many devices you've got. They do all fall over a bit if you're writing in a spot with no internet like I am, but overall they do it so well that you rarely even think about it. I have started a sentence right on my iPhone in the kitchen waiting for the kettle to boil, and then continued the sentence on the Mac, back in my Mac office without thinking, just carried on writing it. Scrivener is exactly as good as all of those if you remember to close the document and if you first set up this syncing in a particular way. Pages, Ulysses, all of those, they by default use Apple's iCloud to kind of shove their documents and data around, and Scrivener does not, because Scrivener can't. Now, Scrivener is not going to stop you using Apple's iCloud, but it's going to kick and scream along the way, because it's how it works. Scrivener stores your work in a way that happens to be different to how iCloud works with syncing. Any one Scrivener document, right, it will have all your writing in it, of course, but there's also things like a research folder that you can have stuffed with notes and images and PDFs and website links and audios, video files in it, just about anything going. And that is brilliant. It is a brilliant feature of Scrivener because it means you can open your book wherever you are and everything you need is right there. But while it looks to you and me like you're opening one book and everything's in there, great. If you do have things like things in your research folder, then behind the scenes, Scrivener is really opening multiple files at the same time. Fine, but it's possible when you then go to another device and open the same book in Scrivener there, not every one of those files will have synced over. if you're using iCloud. This is not Scrivener's fault. It is not iCloud's fault. It is just how they both work and how they long ago took fractionally different approaches to the same thing. But if it's important to know this, right, it's kind of also a shrug, because the answer is simple. Instead of saving your Scrivener documents to Apple's iCloud Drive, you save them to Dropbox. That's it. Now, Dropbox, if you don't happen to already know, it's another service, but things I'm not saying you need to take out yet another subscription to just carry on with your writing. Never had to do this with paper and pen. Dropbox has a free tier. The amount of space you get for free, I think it's shrunk over the years, but when I checked just now in there when I had an internet connection, the figure was 2 gigabytes. You are unlikely to write a book that needs more than 2 gigabytes of storage on any device. I mean, it's far from impossible, but it's not likely, because text doesn't take up much space at all. You'd have to have stuffed that research folder with really big files, like, long videos and things, before you hit a problem. So it can be done, but it isn't going to happen. I have been using Scrivener for 15 years or more, easily 15, and I have never had to pay Dropbox for more space or even to think about it, except for one thing. After a while, it seemed like Dropbox kind of copped onto us all doing this and imposed another limit. For free, you can only use Dropbox on up to 3 devices. I think it's changed sometimes. Apparently it's 3 now. I have an Office Mac, a MacBook Pro, an iPhone and 2 iPads. Is that 4 or 5? Whatever. What actually is very nice for me. That's the number. I have to choose which 3 to have Dropbox on, and so to have Scrivener on. Also, the free version of Dropbox is solely for you. It is not for you and me together. It's not for your family or for teams of friends. You can't use it for collaborating on documents. But the thing is, actually, really, Scrivener isn't built for collaboration at all. You cannot, for example, have 2 authors working on the same Scrivener document at the same time, the way you can in Google Docs, for example. I mean, you could swap, I suppose, if you're able to get the latest version to each other and know that you had and you didn't open. Yeah, madness. That way lies madness. Maybe even fistfights. So, yeah. When you first set up Scrivener on your Mac or your iPad or wherever, also go get a free account at Dropbox.com. You end up with a Dropbox folder on your device, and anything you save into that will be synced across all of your Dropboxed devices. If you make it certain that you close a Scrivener document on one device before opening it up on another, you will never have a problem. But since you are going to forget, I might be projecting here, Scrivener, actually, it'll give you error messages that tell you things have gone wrong. It'll try to sort things out for you. It'll do very well with that. And still, okay, sometimes you will end up with 2 documents, and you don't want that, because now it means you're going to have to copy text out of one version, paste it into the other. You're going to be certain that you got the right one. No, best not to forget. Look, I promise, actually, it takes far longer to say all of that to you than to actually just do it. I mean, and also actually considerably less time to do it than to listen to people complaining about Scrivener's syncing problem. If you just looked into why, yeah, it's all fair enough. Yeah. But now, I said the iPad version was special, and actually one of the reasons is I think it handles syncing really well. There's also, forget multiple devices, right? You can use Scrivener on one iPad as your sole writing device and writing app, and nothing else. I should say, Scrivener for Mac, that's one product, as is Scrivener for Windows. And Scrivener for iPad is another. It is a separate product. You buy it separately, but actually if you buy the iPad version, you get the iPhone one included. And that, I mean, it's more limited, but it's handy for adding in research notes, jotting down ideas on the go and things. But right, with the iPad, take a look at this, please. This is my Scrivener app on iPad, and every block you can see is a different project. It's a different book. This is a case of do as I say, not as I patently do, because this many books, it's ridiculous. Keep 1 or 2 on your iPad, just 1 or 2 in your Dropbox folder. The reason I have so many more is that I don't have to take them out. I don't have to think about it. I am still on the free Dropbox account, but every now and again, Dropbox offers you a bit more storage space for free if you get other people to sign up. Hello. I should check first whether that's actually the case at the moment, but if there is, Dropbox link in the video's description. Thank you. Okay, so anyway, over the years, over 15 years or however many years it is, I've had this offer a lot, and I've more than tripled my free space, and that's great. But that's led to this, my bad habit of just leaving a project on the iPad when it's done. Now, you're looking at me. I will sort that out, okay? It'll be down to 2. But this is the important thing. Whenever you open Scrivener, you see 1 or 2 books as these rectangles across the main part of the screen, but also in this list down the side. That list down the side is actually showing you where the documents are stored. And I have a thing to show you about that in a sec. First though, this. That circular icon towards the top left, that is the sync icon. I wish it was bigger, but there it is. You're going to see in a moment how often Scrivener basically presses that button for you, but get in the habit of tapping that sync a lot. Or at least do that after you've got a writing project underway. To start such a new Scrivener project, you tap on this Create Project button, or if you want to, tap the much smaller, practically hard to see, plus sign at the top right. It's the same button, it's just in 2 different places. I mean, presumably to save you long finger movements around. Yeah. Whichever you tap, you're now creating a new document, and Scrivener asks, well, you give it a name first. Do you want to save it on your iPad? So, I mean, actually solely on the device's internal storage and nowhere else, or on Dropbox, which means on the iPad and synced over Dropbox. Choose Dropbox every time. Now, you're into the document, but actually, let me just tap some random text. Okay, and come right back out by tapping this Projects button at top left. Look what happens. Scrivener immediately syncs over Dropbox without you doing anything. You didn't press the button, you can't stop it. It will always do this the moment you come out of a document, because it must be done. It's that important. And actually, while we're out of it, look at that list of projects on the back. I said I want to show you something. If I scroll way down, you can see the top ones are in Dropbox, and I have none stored just on my iPad. And do also notice, by the way, that way down there, Scrivener has a help section and a tutorial. Okay, right now on my setup, that looks a bit daft, doesn't it, having it so far down the list? Like, you're never going to find that without a deliberate search. But remember, when you first start, when you most need those, you're not going to have anything like this silly long list of projects that I've done. So it will be in view at the top, and they're both, the help and the tutorial are very good. Speaking of silly projects, well, we've just started one, so let's finish. Come with me back into our new document. Actually, do you know, save me writing stuff while you watch. Let's go into one of my old projects instead, so that we can have some text to work from. Okay, I want to make a copy of it though. So to make a copy of a project, make sure you're back out of this projects view, then tap the edit button at the top of the list of projects. Each project now has these grab handles, so you can tap and hold on them and drag them up and down the list of projects for no good reason that I can fathom. I'm not knocking your organisational need. I'm just, frankly, I envy that. Just as far as I can see, once you let go of those projects, it snaps back to exactly where it was. Hours of fun. What you can do, though, is this. Click in this circle to select one or more projects. We'll just do one for this. When you've done that, there are then these icons at the bottom of the column, including this duplicate option. Tap that, and you'll never guess what it does. But when it's done, right, you now have a duplicate of your old project, and it is not synced to Dropbox yet. You've just created it. Scrivener warns you of this with the blue triangles. You see the blue triangles, you see any warning like that, you tap that circular sync icon and watch as it is all safely synced away for you. There's nothing you can do actually while the syncing is going. Nothing you can do until that is done. So don't even try fiddling. You could, I suppose, switch out of Scrivener to a different app, but because of the way the iPad works, very few, I can think of one app that can carry on working in the background. So you can come back to Scrivener and find it's no further through the syncing than when you left. And also, I've sometimes found, just once or twice, if I come back to it, Scrivener gets almost finished, but then seems to freeze. You may then have to tap cancel, in which case you get this warning. If you see that warning, well, tap to get rid of the error message. Notice that the sync button up in the corner is now red. So make it habitual. Tap that sync button and control yourself. Stay in Scrivener. Anyway, all of this syncing stuff, right? It's too fast for you to go make some tea, but it's also a little bit too slow to not be a tiny bit irritating sometimes. Although actually that does depend on the size of your book and what you're syncing. We've just duplicated an entire book manuscript. Scrivener will now do the usual thing, by the way, of titling your duplicate project the same as the original, but with a 1 at the end. Press and hold on the project title, either in the project list or in the rectangular section, the rectangle versions in the main part of the view, and you will get a pop-up that now lets you rename it. Do that and then tap to go into your new document, and finally you can start writing. Now I'm doing this, actually I'm holding this way, but let me put it back. I'm doing this with an attached keyboard like this. If you don't do that, you get an on-screen keyboard and it's fine, but it takes up room when I want to show you a lot of other things on there. And also, for when you and I are actually writing, typing on the glass, it's okay. I mean, it's even quite good, really, but not great. I'm using an Apple Magic keyboard, but you can use any Bluetooth one. I went for this. Well, I mean, I closed my eyes, winced at the cost and tapped yes when I was ordering the whole iPad and just got it out the way. Very expensive, but a very good keyboard and an okay case as well. But since using any external keyboard means we can see the whole iPad screen, let's do it. Take a quick look around from you inside a document. The main area, the main text area, is the editor window, just like it is on the Mac, and that is where you will write and write and write. You won't be shocked to learn that when you start, well, that's going to be completely empty. Pull your finger out, one word after another, get writing. But you might like that once you've been writing for a while, this editor window will always open up to whatever the last bit was you were working on. In this case, it's a particular chapter in a book of mine from a little while ago. And I can scroll up and down this chapter. I can edit bits and things. And actually, as soon as I tap in to the chapter to edit something, I get this little extra toolbar at the bottom of the screen, the foot of the screen. From left to right, first icon, well, that can give me the on-screen keyboard, should I want it. If you do, or press accidentally, then to get rid of it again, there's a keyboard down icon at bottom right of the whole keyboard. Next, there's undo and redo, and then there's cut and copy and paste. This speech bubble-like icon, that's for adding comments or annotations and footnotes as well. Then the chain, you've seen this kind of thing before. The chain is for adding web links and things, but actually it's also for inserting today's date and time or an image into your text. And next one, the last one, is about raising the function keys on the keyboard, which is easier to show you actually if you're using the on-screen one. Let me just do that. Tap up the keyboard, tap that button, and you get this row of extra keys. And you can swipe back and forth to get more of them, and I never use it. But last in that little row, get rid of the on-screen keyboard again, is a microphone for dictation. Now, other end, up at the top of the screen, you get more controls to the left and the right. It's all very nice, and a word count slap in the middle. That's a word count for this chapter. To see that, you have to tap into the text. You have to be editing it before you see the count. The controls, though, from the left, they start with a button to expand the editor area to full screen, so getting rid of that side column, thing known as the binder. To go back to the binder and move around, you can tap the draft button that's now appeared. Fine. Next to it, there's up and down for going through your chapters, although I suppose that's more useful in full screen. When I have the binder open, I just tap on the chapter I want when I want it. Over to the side, over to the right, there's a quartet of tools. That ends with a plus sign for making what it says is a new document, and what it means is a new chapter within this this document. Next to that, there's a magnifying glass, and I think you know that a search feature will appear there. Shock. But it seems that this one only searches the current chapter, which is not that useful, I think. Okay. Scrivener is also confusing around this area, I think, because in a couple of places it does sound as if you're starting a whole new project, and you're not. In Scrivener speak, a whole new book is a project. Where a chapter or similar within a project is created, that's a document. But the next tool also refers to documents, right? It shows you a list of the chapters. I call them chapters, old-fashioned. You've been editing in reverse order, starting with the last one, so it's quick to move back and forth between a couple of them. And then there's also this, which I've left to last, because I, for Inspector, has so many options. Yeah, so many options, but you can use or ignore them as you like. But okay, from top to bottom, there's the title of the chapter which you can edit. There's the synopsis section. Again, optional, but this becomes useful in the Corkboard view that Scrivener for iPad and the Mac, but not the iPhone, do have and can be extremely useful. An organizational thing that can be particularly useful. For some writers, this next bit, label and status sections, they're useful too. If you've seen the first part of this on the Mac, again, link below, I mentioned that I, for example, might well mark a chapter as green if it's finished, completely done with. This is where you would do that on Scrivener for iPad. Tap on label, and you can choose a color, or tap the edit button and now you can create a new label, actually writing a name for it, like perfection, junk, somewhere in between, whatever you need the most. If you are now thinking that this is exactly like tags on the Mac and in lots of other apps, yes, exactly. Tags, labels, here's why. Next, status. Again, a selectable even list of typical stages in a manuscript from to do to done, really. You can tap this edit button and once more start adding more, such as waiting on editor, if you need, something like that. Notes then is where you can jot down that this is the incredible chapter in the story of Wilbur, the chocolate god, whatever you want. Do you know this story? It writes itself. Then the last section, document settings. Including compile is to do with how you get your finished writing out of Scrivener and send it to publishers or whoever. We will come back to that in just a second, as it is something, it's something else that's key to using Scrivener. Again, optional, but key. But for now, leave including compiled turned on. Folder means you can turn this chapter into a folder. I've never done it, but you know, if you're part way through and think, do you know, I'm going to need an extra chapter, but they need to be grouped together, well, all right, you can do that here. That's nice. Icon is the same as on the Mac version of Scrivener. It lets you assign different icons to the chapters, should you wish. And then lastly, there's Corkboard image. This is where you will choose a picture to represent your chapter, again, if you want to, if that helps you. But I think you need to see what use that is before you know whether or not to bother with how to use it. So come with me out of the inspector, out of the chapter, until you see the list of all of the chapters and the drafting. On the iPad, again, not the iPhone, the overall draft section has this icon of 4 squares next to it. Tap on that and you get this Corkboard view. Just as on the Mac, it is a visual representation of your whole book. It's the index card view of every chapter. Each card will be blank if you haven't written anything in the chapter yet, or it will show you the opening lines of the chapter if you have, or it will show you the synopsis if you've written that, or it will show an image like this one. So you can see that an image might be useful, particularly if you're a visual sort of writer. But before we go back to adding one, let's just pause for a moment and stay in the Corkboard view for a second. Again, just as with the Mac, you can drag these index cards around to rearrange your chapters, and the book rearranges as it goes. It's fantastic. You have to press and hold for a beat, but then you can drag. Or if you tap the edit button, you can select multiple index cards and tap this button to merge the chapters together again, should you wish, or to move them all into a new folder, for example. None of this is needed, but it is good. I will use the Corkboard sometimes to get a kind of overview of what I've done so far and what I haven't, actually. But I never bother writing synopses, and I rarely add notes. I've only twice in my life added an image to a Scrivener document, and you've just seen the second time. The first time was showing on the Mac in part 1 of this Scrivener Month on 58 keys. But I know for some people it's really useful. It's easy, it's genuinely, it's a big feature of Scrivener. So, just to show you, let's quickly come back to the chapter's name in the list. So tap on the chapter's name, not anywhere in the text, and then click on I for Inspector. If you have, by the way, tapped into the text, you lose the Inspector button and you instead get a formatting icon, which is where you can hold bold, italic styles and things like that. Anyway, to get the Inspector back, tap on a different chapter in the list and then tap again on the chapter you want to do things to. Now, tap on this Inspector button, tap on the Corkboard section, Corkboard image right at the bottom, and now tap Choose. I don't actually like this. Scrivener asks if you want to select a photo from the Photos album, open the camera to take a new image, or browse through the files on your iPad. Fine, but it doesn't give you an option to cancel. To say, yeah, no, change my mind here, you have to go into one of these and then close whichever one it is, close whatever dialog box appears. But you can get an image in, you can make some little edits to it, readjust it just a tiny little bit, and you can also remove the image later if you want. This is all organizational stuff, and it's one of the things where in Scrivener you'll find it increasingly useful as you write more and longer pieces, but it is always your writing that matters the most. And there's one thing about Scrivener that is brilliant for writing on the Mac and is on the iPad but is fine. On the Mac, as you would have seen in more detail in the previous part, you can split the screen to have two chapters side by side, or one atop the other. I mean, actually, it doesn't even have to be two different chapters. It can be the same one. And I found that actually deeply useful in a really long chapter. Work through the... Yeah, so good. On the iPad, there's something like this, but it's a workaround by the makers, Literature and Latte. What happens is this. It's been arranged. You can have your chapter open, right? And you can swipe from left to right on another chapter's name and get this More button. Tap that and then choose Quick Reference. When you do it, it shows you that new selected chapter in this narrow binder width column. It's fine. It's not as good, but it's great to have something. Actually, I should say that's different. Everything else I've shown you so far was kind of the same thing as on a Mac, but in a different place. That one was similar place, but more limited. There are bits that are exactly the same, or at least when you first go into them, and one of them is the research folder. We're going to leave the detail of the research folder to next week's part 3. There's not a lot, but we've had why. This has been where. Next week is what, where we'll go into that, go into the extras that Scrivener is actually so good for. And again, remember that the fourth one is how, and if you don't ask questions, it's going to be me looking at you for now. I'll bring tea. Biscuits are on you. But one of the questions, right, that you are likely to ask, either because you've thought of it now or when you've begun using Scrivener, is to do with this last section, the compile feature. So you've gone into your book, you're finished, you're ready, you want to send it to someone else. So a publisher will expect it in Word format, for example. If you're publishing it, you might want it in Word. You might want it as an EPUB, various options like that. On the Mac, Scrivener is incredibly, well, I was going to say complicated, and that's harsh. It's very powerful. There are so many options. The iPad is different. The iPad has come much later than the Mac version. It was written from scratch, I believe, and that meant the whole compile thing was started from scratch after many, many years of being slowly developed on the Mac. To get it done, I suppose, it had to be less so. It had to be not as powerful. And, it would take years to get it up to the level of the Mac. Fine, but the consequence was it's also simpler, which is really appealing, particularly if you're new to compile. I mean, I've used compile a lot and still I prefer the iPad version to the Mac one because I have a specific needs when I do something. You're in the chapter of the book, right? Let's do this. Down at the bottom there is a button. Tap on that button and you get the compile option. File format is just 4, and I tend to use PDF or Word, but well, let's say Word for a bit. It does make some changes. There are some little options to do with the appearance of it. If you have made loads of comments on it, well, you can just tick them off there, remove them, and you can make various tiny other little changes for it. But then when you're done, you tap the compile button. It shows you a version of what it's going to look like, and then you can tap this. Well, it's like a share icon. It's not quite Apple's standard share, but you can do that. Tap how to send it to somebody. I actually thought that was going to take longer to explain. Maybe it's something we can look at in part 4, and you can ask me intelligent questions and I can look. By the way, I think I've already said this, 58 Keys Patreon members, they're all, as well as asking questions already, they're looking to form a Scrivener writers group. I think without me, fine, as long as they let me join. But for now, that's it for this edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself, okay? Write more too, in Scrivener or anything else, doesn't matter, the writing that matters. And I'll see you soon.